The man in the dust. The desert didn't forgive. And it didn't forget. It stretched endlessly beneath a merciless sun, where the earth had cracked open like it had given up on life itself. The wind moved slowly, dragging dust across the land like ghosts wandering without purpose. Out here, silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. It pressed against your chest until even breathing felt like work. A lone rider moved through that silence. A cowgirl. Her figure cut through the heat waves, steady but tired. Her horse's hooves sank softly into the loose dirt, each step slower than the last. She wasn't chasing anything. She wasn't running either. She was simply surviving. One more day in a world that had taken everything from her. Her eyes stayed forward, sharp and distant. In the Wild West, looking too closely at anything usually meant trouble. And trouble was something she had learned to avoid. The wind picked up slightly, brushing against her coat, carrying grains of sand across her face. She didn't react. She had felt worse. Then something broke the pattern. A shape. At first it was nothing more than a dark patch against the pale dust. Easy to miss. Easy to ignore. She almost did. Her horse slowed on its own, sensing something unnatural in the stillness ahead. The cowgirl's eyes narrowed. Her hand moved instinctively toward the holster at her side. Out here, anything out of place usually meant danger. She approached slowly, step by step. The shape became clearer. A man, lying face down in the dirt. Still. Too still. The horse let out a quiet breath, uneasy. The cowgirl said nothing. Her gaze moved to the sky. Vultures. Circling. Patient. Waiting. That told her everything she needed to know. Dead or close enough. She should have kept riding. That's what anyone with sense would do. Because, in this land, helping the wrong person didn't just cost you time, it cost you your life. Her grip tightened on the reins. For a moment, she turned her horse slightly, ready to leave. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the way the man's hand twitched faintly against the dirt. Twitched faintly against the dirt. Maybe it was the memory of a time when no one had stopped for her. Or maybe it was just the last piece of humanity she hadn't buried yet. She exhaled slowly. Damn it, she muttered under her breath. Swinging herself off the horse, her boots hit the ground with a soft thud. Dust rose around her as she stepped closer. Every instinct in her body was alert now. Ready. If this was a trap, she'd end it fast. She nudged the man gently with her boot. No response. She crouched down, turning him slightly. That's when she saw the blood. Dark, dried in places, fresh in others. A bullet wound, clean through the side. He shouldn't have survived this long. His face was rough, hardened by years of something brutal. Stubble, dirt, scars. Not the face of a good man. But not a dead man either. Not yet. She placed 2 fingers near his neck. A pulse. Weak. Barely there. But real. Her jaw tightened. Why are you still breathing? She whispered, almost to herself. The vultures above let out a distant cry. Time was running out. She looked around, empty land in every direction. No tracks, no sign of who did this. Which meant one thing. Whoever put that bullet in him might still be out there watching, waiting. Her eyes returned to him. He wasn't just a victim. He was trouble. She could feel it. In the way his hand twitched again. In the tension still trapped in his body. Men like him didn't end up like this by accident. For a long moment, she just stared, thinking, calculating this was the moment that defined survival in the Wild West. And risk everything. Or walk away. And live another day. The wind passed between them again. Quiet. Cold. Uncaring. She closed her eyes. Briefly. Then made her choice. Fine, she said, her voice low but firm. You don't die here. She grabbed him under the arms, pulling with effort. He was heavy, dead weight dragging against the dirt. Her horse shifted nervously as she hauled him up. Easy, she murmured to the horse, more calm than she felt. With one final push, she managed to lift him across the saddle. His body hung loosely, blood staining the side. She climbed up behind him, steadying his weight. For a second she hesitated, just 1 second, as if she could still turn back. Then she kicked the reins lightly. The horse moved, slow at first, then steady, leaving behind the empty desert, leaving behind the vultures, leaving behind the place where he should have died. As they rode off, the wind erased their tracks almost instantly, like the land itself didn't want witnesses. And far in the distance, something moved on the horizon, watching them go. A stranger under her roof. The cabin stood alone, like it had been forgotten by the world. Old wood creaked softly under the weight of time, every plank marked by storms, heat, and years of silence. It wasn't much, but it was hers, the only place where she could exist without looking over her shoulder. The horse stopped just outside. She slid down first, her boots hitting the dry ground, then turned immediately to the man slumped across the saddle. Up close, he looked worse than before. His skin had gone pale beneath the dust, his breathing shallow and uneven. "Stay with me," she muttered, more instinct than hope. She pulled him down carefully, his weight nearly dragging her with him. For a second she struggled, but she didn't let go. Gritting her teeth, she forced him over her shoulder just enough to carry, step by step, toward the cabin door. Inside, the air was cooler. Dim. She laid him down on her bed without ceremony. No comfort, just urgency. There was no time to think. She grabbed a cloth, water, whiskey. Her hands moved fast but steady, cutting through his shirt to expose the wound. The blood had clotted in places, but infection had already started creeping in. "Damn," she whispered. She poured whiskey over the wound. His body reacted instantly. A sharp breath, almost a groan. "Alive. Good." "Don't fight it," she said under her breath, pressing the cloth down firmly. He drifted again, slipping back into darkness. Hours passed. The sun dropped slowly outside, painting the sky in burning orange before fading into cold blue. Inside the cabin, only a lantern lit the room now, its glow flickering softly across rough wooden walls. She worked in silence, cleaning, wrapping, stitching, every move precise, practiced. This wasn't the first time she had dealt with wounds, but it was the first time in a long while she had chosen to. Night settled in. He lay still, breathing but barely. She sat beside the bed, watching. Not out of care. Not yet. Out of caution. Men like him didn't come without shadows, and she could feel his. Sometime in the middle of the night, he moved. A small shift. Then a whisper. Words, broken, unclear. "Don't. No, stop." Her eyes narrowed slightly. Dreams. Bad ones. His hands tightened weakly against the blanket, like he was fighting something far away. She didn't ask what. She didn't want to know. Not yet. The next morning came quietly. Soft light slipped through the window, touching his face. For the first time, his eyes opened. Sharp. Alert. Dangerous. He didn't move at first, just looked around, taking in everything, the room, the door, the window, her. Always calculating. Always ready. Where? His voice cracked, dry and rough. Where? Was. "You shouldn't have," he muttered. "Maybe," she replied. "But I did." Another silence. Different this time. Less sharp. More uncertain. Days began to pass. Slow. Careful. He didn't trust her. She didn't trust her. She didn't trust her. But neither of them said it. She brought him water, food, changed his bandages. He watched her every time. Not with fear. With habit. Like a man who had learned the hard way that trust gets you killed. But something shifted. Small at first. The way his eyes softened. Just a little. The way she stayed in the room longer than she needed to. Words came slowly. Short. Simple. But real. "What's your name?" he asked one evening. She hesitated, then answered. "Doesn't matter." He almost smiled at that. "Fair enough." Another pause. Then, quietly, "You saved my life." She didn't respond, just turned slightly toward the window, watching the sun fall again. "Don't thank me yet," she said after a moment. "Out here, nothing comes free." He studied her again, this time, not like a threat, but like a question. And somewhere by the silence, the pain, and the passing days, something began to change. Not trust. Not yet. But something close enough to feel. The past he tried to bury. The days didn't pass fast in the Wild West. They dragged, slow, heavy, unforgiving, and inside that quiet cabin time felt even slower. The man was healing, but not completely. Not the kind of wounds that show on skin. He sat outside now, leaning against the wooden wall, watching the horizon like it might come alive at any moment. His body was stronger, he could stand, walk, even hold a gun again. But his eyes never rested. They scanned everything. Every shadow, every movement, every sound, like a man waiting for something he knew would come. The cowgirl noticed. She always noticed. She stepped out of the cabin, carrying a small metal plate with food. No words, just placed it beside him. He looked at it, then at her. "You don't have to keep doing this," he said quietly. She crossed her arms slightly, leaning against the door frame. "I know." Silence. Wind moved across the open land, brushing through dry grass, carrying that same empty sound. He picked up the food slowly, wincing just a little as his body reminded him he wasn't fully healed. "You live out here alone?" he asked. She nodded once. "Easier that way." "For who?" he asked. She didn't answer, because some questions don't need answers. He took a bite, chewed slowly, thought. Then, after a long pause, "You should have left me out there." Her eyes shifted to him. Not soft, not angry, just steady. "And you should have died," she replied. "But you didn't." That hit differently. He gave a faint, almost invisible smile, the kind that comes from someone who hasn't smiled in a long time. "Yeah," he said. "Guess neither of us makes the smart choice." Another silence, but this one felt less distant. He finished eating, setting the plate aside. His fingers rubbed absently against his side near the wound. Old habit, or maybe something deeper. "You ever wonder," he said slowly, "how far a man can run before the past catches him?" She looked at him now. Really looked. There it was. Not fear. Not exactly. But something close. "You running from something?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. His eyes moved back to the horizon. And for the first time, they weren't sharp. They were tired. "I used to ride with men," he began, his voice low, rough. "Not the kind you'd want knocking on your door." She said nothing, just listened. Because now, it mattered. "We didn't just take money," he continued. "We took whatever we wanted. Land, horses, lives." The wind passed again, but now it felt colder. "I told myself I didn't have a choice," he said, "that it was survival." A pause, then quieter. But that wasn't true. His jaw tightened slightly. "I chose it. That was the truth. Heavy, ugly, real." She looked away briefly, her expression hardening just a little. "Memories. Her own." "I've seen men like that," she said quietly. "They don't usually walk away." "They don't," he replied. "So how did you—" Another pause. Longer this time. "Something broke," he said finally. "One night. Something I couldn't ignore anymore." He didn't explain further. Didn't need to. Some things speak for themselves. "They didn't like that," he added. "Men like that don't believe in leaving. Only loyalty. Or death." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "So they're coming," she said. Not a question. A fact. He nodded once. "Yeah." Silence fell between them again. But now it was different. He wasn't just a stranger anymore. He was danger. And she knew it. She stepped away from the door, walking a few paces into the open land, thinking. He watched her, waiting, expecting her to tell him to leave, to ride out, to take his trouble somewhere else. He wouldn't blame her, wouldn't even argue, because he knew what he brought with him. But she didn't say it. Instead, she spoke without turning around. "You killed people." He closed his eyes for a brief second. "Yeah." "You hurt families." "Yeah." Another pause. Then, "And now you're sitting here eating my food like none of that matters." Her voice wasn't angry. It was honest. That was worse. He looked down at his hands. Rough. Scarred. Stained by things that never really wash away. "I know," he said quietly. "That's why I should go." There it was. The moment. He slowly pushed himself up, ignoring the pain in his side. She turned then. Fast. You leave, she said firmly. You won't make it a day. He met her eyes. And if I stay? She held his gaze. Unshaken. Then we deal with it. Simple. Direct. Dangerous. He studied her for a long moment, trying to understand, trying to figure out why. But some people don't save you because you deserve it. They save you because they choose to. And that choice changes everything. The wind picked up again, moving between them. But this time, it didn't feel empty because something had shifted. Not trust, not forgiveness, but something real. And in the Wild West, that was rare. Riders on the horizon. The wind changed first, not loudly, not suddenly, but in a way only people who had survived long enough could feel. The cowgirl noticed it while standing outside the cabin. Her hand paused mid-task. The air felt heavier. Still. Wrong. She slowly turned her head toward the horizon. At first, nothing, just the desert. Empty, endless, silent. But then she saw it. A faint line of dust. Far away. Too far to be natural wind. Her eyes narrowed instantly. She stepped forward a few paces, shielding her eyes from the sun. The dust line grew thicker. Moving. Fast. Her heartbeat didn't rise yet. Not fear. Recognition. She knew what that meant. Behind her, the cowboy stepped out of the cabin, sensing her stillness. What is it? He asked. She didn't answer immediately, because now she could see them clearly. Horses. Many. Riding in formation. Not lost travelers. Not traders. Hunters. Her voice came low. They're here. That was all she said. But it was an eye. The cowboy's entire posture changed instantly. His shoulders tightened. His eyes sharpened, like a man remembering something he tried to forget. How many? She asked without looking at him. He didn't need to count. Too many. The wind grew stronger now, kicking dust across the ground like the land itself was warning them. She turned toward him slowly. So it's them. He nodded once. No lies now. No hiding. They don't leave loose ends, he said quietly. Silence dropped between them again. But this silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was heavy, pressurized, like the world holding its breath. She looked back toward the horizon. The riders were closer now. No longer a line. Now shapes. Men. Armed. Coming straight for them. They tracked you here, she said. Yeah, he replied. And you didn't think they would? I hoped they wouldn't, he said. That honesty hit harder than anything else. She turned fully toward him now. For a second, anger flashed in her eyes. Not at him. At the situation. At the world. At fate. You brought a war to my door, she said quietly. He didn't argue, didn't defend himself. Because she was right. He had. The riders were closer now. Dust rising like smoke behind them. The sound of hooves began to echo faintly. A distant thunder. The cowboy looked at her. Leave, he said again. Same word as before, but heavier now. This is your chance. She stared at him. Long. Unmoving. And go where? She asked. He didn't answer, because there was no answer. This land had no safe direction, only distance. She walked past him, heading toward the cabin. You think I saved you just to watch you die alone? She said. He followed her with his eyes. That's not how this works out here. She stopped at the door, then turned slightly. Her voice dropped. If they're coming, then we prepare. That was it. No fear, no hesitation, just decision. Inside the cabin, everything changed. The calm was gone, replaced by motion. Weapons were pulled out from hidden places. Bullets checked. Doors reinforced. Windows opened just enough. The cabin stopped being a home and became a last stand. Outside, the sound of horses grew louder. Closer. The cowboy stood near the doorway, watching her. You don't have to do this, he said again. She loaded a rifle without looking at him. Yes, she said simply. I do. A pause. Then. Why? He asked. She finally looked at him now. Really looked, and her answer wasn't loud, wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, honest. Because I've already lost everything once, she said. I'm not doing it again. The wind slammed against the cabin. The riders were now visible. Clear. Closing in fast. The cowboy slowly lifted his weapon, not because he wanted to fight, but because there was no more running. She stood beside him now. Not behind, not away. Beside. 2 broken lives. 1 incoming war. And as the first rider raised his gun in the distance, the silence finally broke. Love in the middle of war. The first shot didn't sound like a gunshot. It sounded like thunder cracking the sky open. Then everything broke. The Wild West didn't warn you before it turned violent. It simply changed in a heartbeat from silence to chaos. Bullets tore through the air, slamming into wood, dirt, and anything unlucky enough to stand still. The cowgirl dropped instantly behind the cabin wall. "Stay low," she shouted. But he was already moving. The cowboy pulled her back just as another shot splintered the wood beside her head. Dust exploded around them. The world was no longer a place. It was a battlefield. Outside, riders rushed in. Fast. Violent. Unstoppable. The sound of hooves was everywhere now, surrounding them, closing the circle. The cabin shook with impact after impact. Inside, there was no space for fear anymore. Only instinct. Only survival. The cowgirl reloaded her rifle with steady hands, despite everything shaking around her. "You ready?" she asked. He looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time, there was no hesitation in his eyes. "Yes," he said. Not because he wanted to fight, but because there was no other choice left. A rider crashed past the window. She fired. 1 shot. Clean. The man fell from his horse into the dust. No celebration. No pause. Only movement. Left side. He shouted. She turned and fired again. Another rider dropped. The world outside was screaming now. Gunfire, horses, fire, dust. Everything alive was trying to kill everything else. The cabin door burst open suddenly. A rider stormed in. Too close. Too fast. Before she could react, the cowboy stepped forward. Not away. Forward. He grabbed the man's arm mid-motion, twisting violently. A shot fired, missed. He slammed the man into the wall. Hard. 1 clean strike. Silence for a fraction of a second. Then the body dropped. She stared at him for a second longer than she should have. Something changed in that moment. Not just survival. Trust. Real trust. Outside, the attack intensified. Fire caught the edge of the cabin. Smoke started filling the air. "We can't hold this forever," she shouted. "I know," he shouted back, but neither of them moved away. Because now, it wasn't about escape. It was about standing. Together. Too close. Then, the cowboy moved without. She froze. "Get down," she yelled. But he didn't. The rider fired. Time slowed. A sharp crack echoed through the air. The cowboy staggered slightly but didn't fall. Instead, he raised his weapon and fired back. The rider dropped instantly. Silence hit for half a second. Then chaos returned. She rushed to him. "You're hit," she said quickly. "It's nothing," he replied through clenched teeth. It wasn't nothing. But he stayed standing anyway, because falling wasn't an option anymore. Not he. Not now. She grabbed his arm briefly. A grounding touch. Not weakness. Connection. "You don't get to die now," she said sharply. A faint, almost painful smile crossed his face. "Didn't plan on it," he said. The fire outside grew stronger. The attackers were pulling back slightly, grouping, but not gone. Never gone. "More coming," he said. She nodded. "I know." A pause. Then something quieter between them. Not words. Understanding. In the middle of destruction, something had formed. Not perfect. Not safe. But real. The kind of connection built not in peace, but in survival. He looked at her. "Why didn't you leave?" he asked again. She didn't hesitate this time. "Because if I had," she said, "you would have died alone." That hit deeper than any bullet. For a moment, everything around them faded. Gunfire. Smoke. Fire. All of it distant. It was just them, standing in the middle of a war they never asked for. And for the first time, they weren't strangers. They were something else. Something dangerous. Something real. Something worth fighting for. Outside, the riders regrouped for the final push. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. A battle written in blood. The fire was no longer just burning the cabin. It was swallowing it. Everything they had built in silence was now collapsing into ash and smoke. The sky had turned dark orange, almost black at the edges, like the world itself was bleeding. Outside, the gunfire had slowed, not because it was over, but because it was about to end. Final push. Final choice. The cowgirl stood behind a half-broken wooden wall, breathing hard, hands shaking slightly as she reloaded her rifle. Her face was covered in dust, sweat, and the glow of firelight. Next to her, the cowboy was quieter now. Too quiet. His breathing had changed. She noticed immediately. "Don't you dare slow down now," she said sharply. He didn't answer. That scared her more than anything. A final group of riders emerged through the smoke. The last wave. The leader was there. The man behind all of it. Cold, calm, watching. The same kind of man the cowboy used to be. For a second, everything slowed. The cowboy stepped forward slightly. "No," she said instantly. "Don't go out there." But he was already moving. "This ends now," he said quietly. She grabbed his arm. "Not like this." He looked at her, and for the first time, there was peace in his eyes. Not fear. Not anger. Acceptance. "I can't run from it anymore," he said. The words hit her like a bullet she couldn't dodge. The leader raised his gun in the distance. Everything tightened. The cowgirl's breath stopped. "No," she shouted. The cowboy stepped fully into the open, dust rising around his boots. Fire behind him, death in front of him, and her behind him. He wasn't running anymore. He wasn't hiding. He was ending it. A shot fired. Time shattered. The sound echoed across the desert like the world breaking apart. The cowboy staggered. His body jolted, but he didn't fall immediately. Instead, he kept walking forward, step by step. The cowgirl froze. "No, no, no, no," she whispered. Her rifle dropped slightly, but she couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The cowboy raised his weapon with shaking hands. One shot left. One chance. He aimed and fired. The leader dropped instantly. Silence. Not peace, just absence. For a moment, nothing moved. Even the fire seemed to pause. Then the cowboy finally collapsed to his knees. Slowly, like gravity had been waiting for him all along. The cowgirl rushed forward instantly. She dropped beside him. Her hands went to his chest instinctively. Blood. Warm. Real. "No, stay with me," she said quickly, her voice breaking. "You don't get to leave now." He looked up at her and smiled. Faint. Tired. But real. "I told you," he whispered. "This was coming." Tears hit her eyes immediately. "You said you'd leave," she said. "You said you'd run." "I tried," he said softly. A pause. Then, "But some things follow you forever." She shook her head. "No, no, listen to me, don't do this." His hand slowly lifted, barely, touching her arm. Weak, but real. "You saved me," he said. Her voice broke completely now. "Don't thank me," she whispered. "Just stay." He looked at her for a long moment, like memorizing her. Not the world, just her. Then his grip loosened slightly. The fire behind them continued to burn, but everything else felt far away now. "I didn't deserve that second life," he said quietly. She leaned closer. "You did," she said. "You just didn't believe it." A breath. His last one came slower, calmer, and in the middle of war, there was something almost peaceful about it. The cowboy's eyes softened completely. The tension left his face. And for the first time, he wasn't running. He wasn't fighting. He was gone. The cowgirl stayed there, holding him. Even after everything became still, even after the sound of battle faded completely, Even after the Wild West stopped screaming, she didn't move, because some losses don't end. They stay, like a story written in blood that never fully dries. Behind her, the desert wind slowly began to rise again, as if nothing had ever happened. But she knew better. This wasn't the end of a fight. It was the beginning of a memory, one she would carry forever,